Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into the fascinating world of Irving Goffman.
Hmm.
He was a sociologist whose, well, groundbreaking insights into everyday human interaction are arguably even more relevant now than they were decades ago.
I think so, definitely.
You might know him for his iconic concept, the presentation of self, but his work goes so much further. It offers us this meticulous, almost microscopic look at the subtle dances we perform every single day.
And what's truly remarkable about Goffman, what I find so captivating, is his rather peculiar standing within sociology itself.
Oh, how so?
Well, while he's unequivocally acknowledged as a titan in specific subdisciplines, I mean, his influence is huge in areas like medicine, deviance, communication studies.
Sure, you see his name pop up a lot there.
Exactly. But his overall recognition as, like, a foundational figure among all sociologists isn't always as consistently profound.
Really? That seems odd.
It is odd. Some early critics, astonishingly, even questioned if his work was, limited and unworthy of serious attention.
Unworthy.
Can you believe it? But for those of us who are devoted fans, and I absolutely include myself here, it's a truly puzzling discrepancy, especially when you consider the sheer depth, the originality, and, well, the enduring applicability of his observations.
Right. And our mission today is really to thoroughly explore Goffman's core ideas.
Yeah.
Particularly those that illuminate how our personality, or maybe more accurately, how we perform our personality.
Yeah, the performance aspect is key.
How it's not just expressed, but fundamentally shaped by social situations. We'll delve into the intricate ways we consciously and unconsciously present ourselves, manage impressions, express emotions, and even sort of display our sanity in all these subtle daily rituals.
Yeah, the sanity display, it's fascinating.
And this isn't just academic curiosity, right? Understanding these dynamics gives us a powerful lens to think about how these very human performances might be shifting or adapting, maybe even being diminished in our modern, often digitally mediated social landscapes.
And that raises an incredibly important question for all of us, doesn't it? If Goffman so brilliantly showed us that our self is this constant fluid performance, always adapting to the situation,
Right.
what happens when the very nature of those situations undergoes a radical transformation? What happens when our stages shift from, the living room to the Instagram feed, or the office water cooler to a Zoom call or an online forum?
Huge changes.
Huge. So we're going to try and equip you with the conceptual tools to really think through that for yourself, to apply Goffman's incredible, almost X-ray vision for detail to the social worlds you navigate every single day, online and off.
Okay, so let's start with the man himself. Who exactly was Irving Goffman? You said he wasn't your typical academic. He really seemed to forge his own path.
No, he absolutely wasn't typical. Goffman had these unusually modest, almost understated views about the actual state of microsocial science back then.
Modest. How so?
Well, he famously believed that in this intricate field, we were, and I quote, only at the beginning of real science.
Humble.
Very. For him, the goal wasn't getting bogged down in complex theoretical debates just for the sake of it. Nor was it doing highly focused research just to generate more research.
Right.
Instead, he was driven by something simpler, but maybe more ambitious. He wanted to uncover elementary variables that simplify and order the sort of chaotic complexity of human interaction.
Like finding the basic rules.
Exactly. He wasn't after grand theories that explained everything. He sought a few fundamental conceptual distinctions that could bring clarity to the mundane. It's quite a humble goal for someone whose ideas became so massive.
And this foundational view seems like it really influenced his unconventional style and method, too. Especially his writing. He doesn't sound like a standard sociologist.
That's right. He totally broke the mold. He famously embraced the essay form, deeply inspired by the 16th century French philosopher Montaigne.
Montaigne, right.
Yeah.
The essay, The Attempts.
Precisely. Montaigne used essays as attempts or tries to reflect in painstaking detail on his own life, hoping to illuminate the broader human condition. Goffman saw his work similarly.
As a personal exploration.
A systematically personal enterprise, yeah, rooted firmly in everyday experience. He wasn't claiming to discover definitive truths carved in stone. He was seeking a slippery truth, acknowledging how elusive understanding human behavior is, without saying he definitely found it.
I like that slippery truth.
Me too. And this stance allowed him a highly personal and, to some, irresponsible style in his writing. He felt free to make jokes, be whimsical, digress, use both tragic and comic modes.
which is so different from typical academic writing.
Oh, completely different. A stark contrast to the often sober, rigid, supposedly objective scientific writing. He even said something like, those proclaiming scientific truth must dress soberly, but essayists like him could wear whatever they chose. Metaphorically speaking, of course.
So this unconventional approach went beyond just his writing style. It sounds like he wasn't fussy about his sources either, which is pretty unorthodox for academic research. People are usually very careful about their data.
He was, yeah. One source called him reverential but non-empiricist about data. He wasn't fixated on finding one single, pristine, pure data source.
So what did he do instead?
After doing some initial ethnography, immersing himself in a setting to observe firsthand, he would then scour a host of other more readily assimilable data sources.
Cower them? Like what?
Anything. Novels, biographies, newspaper accounts, alongside, psychiatric case studies or other sociological reports. He just wasn't fussy about the purity of these sources.
Why not? Wasn't that seen as sloppy?
Well, for him, the critical thing was the comparative method. He felt most researchers stood too close to their single data source, leading to what he thought was often trivial theorizing.
So comparing was key.
Absolutely. Analyzing one source was just the start. The real intellectual work, the profound discoveries lay in comparing across different kinds of observations. That's where the patterns emerged.
It sounds like he deeply resisted being pigeonholed or simplifying the complexities of just being human. He embraced all this nuance.
Yeah. Precisely. You've hit on a key insight into his genius.
Was it that refusal to simplify that gave him this unique perspective, to dissect these subtle social dances?
I think so. His refusal to commit rigidly to one discipline or theory was part of this broader stance. His refusal to simplify human beings and social organization. He was a master of paradox.
I mean.
He saw humans as simultaneously free and determined. He acknowledged both structure and process.
So not one or the other.
Never one or the other. Individuals and societies have distinct existences, but also these constant mutual comminglings. He hated either dichotomies. He'd stress different aspects at different times, knowing reality was too complex for neat boxes.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Like, in interaction ritual, he might playfully talk about people as puppets, just vessels for structures.
Right, like we're just acting out scripts.
Kind of. But then elsewhere, he'd powerfully show the reverse. The incredible capacities, techniques, and margins of freedom individuals have. Room for their own interests, purposes, identities, even manipulations.
Unless structure was powerful.
Always powerful, never totally so. That was his view. This deep, nuanced perspective is what makes his work so enduring and resonant. It just feels true to the complexity of life.
So despite being unconventional, maybe even criticized for being apolitical or not having some grand theory, his unique approach really shone a light on parts of our social behavior that often just go unnoticed.
Completely unnoticed, yeah.
Which is why he earned that nickname, the Linnaeus of interaction. What does that actually mean? Like the biologist.
Yeah, exactly. It's a fantastic comparison, really, because just like Carl Linnaeus revolutionized biology by creating a system to classify, plants and animals.
Right, giving everything a name, a category, bringing order.
Precisely. Goffman did something similar, but for us, for how we interact, he was one of the first, really, since George Simmel maybe, to truly recognize the huge importance of microsocial forms.
Microsocial forms.
Yeah.
These tiny interaction moments.
Yes, as a distinct, legitimate level of social organization. He didn't just observe, he categorized, analyzed, revealed the underlying, often invisible, structures of how we interact.
So he brought order to the chaos of everyday interaction.
He brought serious conceptual order to that seemingly chaotic, fleeting domain, producing analyses that are, honestly, the most powerful that anyone has yet achieved in that area. He showed us that the quickest glance, the slightest posture shift, a tiny hesitation in speech, they aren't random. They're part of a highly structured, unspoken language.
So he wasn't just watching us. He was actively trying to categorize and understand the deep structures, like deciphering a secret code of how we behave together.
That's precisely right. His work laid the fundamental groundwork for understanding the inherent, almost invisible structure and rules of social encounters. He called it the interaction order.
The interaction order.
And he argued quite radically for his time that social situations constitute a reality sui generis.
Sui generis.
Latin, right, meaning of its own kind or unique in itself. It's a crucial concept because Goffman wasn't happy just treating social settings as mere backdrops for individuals or just places where people bump into each other and chat.
He saw the situation itself as important.
Massively important. He saw the social situation itself as having its own distinct properties, its own rules, its own structure, like a complex organism or an intricate machine. So a crowded elevator, a quiet library, a loud wedding. They aren't just collections of people. They are, in themselves, distinct social realities that demand serious study, because they profoundly shape our behavior in ways we rarely even notice.
And how did he define these crucial social situations where all this interaction happens?
He defined a social situation as an environment of mutual monitoring possibilities.
Mutual monitoring. So we're all watching each other.
Essentially, yes, it's a space where individuals are accessible to the naked senses of all others who are present, and vice versa. You can see, hear, respond to them, and they to you.
When does it start and end?
It arises when two or more people are in each other's immediate presence, and it lasts until the next to last person leaves.
Okay.
And crucially, within this environment, cultural rules establish how individuals are to conduct themselves by virtue of being in a gathering. That's the mechanism that socially organizes our behavior. Think about how you automatically adjust your posture, your gaze, your voice volume, even your breathing when you know others can see or hear you.
Yeah, you do it without thinking.
That's the mutual monitoring in action, shaping your every micro-movement.
And a huge part of that monitoring, that social choreography, must be how we actually speak to each other. Goffman saw talk itself as a ritually governed system, not just random words.
That's a profound insight, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking, for Goffman, never happens in a vacuum. It's always within a social arrangement. It's never just about who speaks to whom and what language.
So what is it then?
He described it as a little system of mutually ratified and ritually governed face-to-face action. He called it a social encounter.
A social encounter.
Yeah. Once a state of talk is tacitly ratified, meaning everyone involved implicitly agrees, okay, we're having a conversation now, then a whole cascade of subtle, unspoken cues kicks in.
Cues for what?
Everything. For requesting the floor, for giving it up gracefully, for letting the speaker know you're still paying attention, or maybe that your attention is drifting. There's this intimate collaboration that has to be constantly sustained to manage turns, making sure one speaker doesn't overlap too much, or, conversely, that there isn't an awkward silence because someone lacks inoffensive conversational supply.
That polite filler noise we make.
Exactly. That stuff that keeps things flowing smoothly. This profoundly highlights that talk isn't accidental, nor is it purely about information transfer. It's deeply, profoundly organized by unspoken rules and shared expectations, a complex ballet of verbal and nonverbal signals.
Okay, so if Goffman is our guide to these microsocial forms, these hidden grammars of interaction, what does his system tell us about our own personality within them? It really seems he saw it less as some stable inner truth, and more as something we actively, even meticulously, perform.
He absolutely did. This is where his concept of presentation of self becomes so incredibly insightful and, frankly, a little bit radical.
Radical how?
Well, for Goffman, individuals are constantly, almost instinctively, using others as sources of varied data. We watch people to draw inferences about the situation and, crucially, to construct our own next actions.
So we're always observing, interpreting, adjusting?
Always, in real time. And what's truly profound is that by consciously varying our own behavior, we have the power to influence the inferences that others are likely to make.
Okay, so we can shape how people see us.
Yes, and this includes manipulating expressions given off those things that seem involuntary, like facial expressions, gestures, tone of voice.
Things we think just happen.
Right. We often see them as automatic, unchosen reactions. But Goffman showed how they can be strategically deployed, fine-tuned, exaggerated for a desired effect.
So our self isn't just one thing. It's like a collection of many acting selves. I remember reading a really powerful, almost cynical quote comparing Goffman's actor to Machiavelli's prince.
It's a striking comparison, isn't it? It really captures the essence of this idea. This control over resources for influencing the inferences made by others means the self isn't singular, but a multiplicity of acting selves.
So what do the quotes say?
As that source puts it, Machiavelli's prince and Goffman's social actor have no interior specifications. Success arises not from the presence or absence of humanity, but rather from the strategic employment of appearances.
Wow.
And it concludes, in short, it does not matter whether men are virtuous. What counts is whether they can appear to be so when it matters.
That is cynical, treating everything as consciously directed.
It might seem cynical, yeah, like it strips away authenticity or genuine emotion. But Goffman's brilliance was precisely this focus. It made the activities of those who do consciously construct their actions available for sociological analysis. It showed how even seemingly authentic behaviors are often carefully, if unconsciously, constructed.
It challenges us to look beneath the surface.
Definitely.
And he even takes this further, distinguishing between performers who are sincere and those who are cynical. This isn't about morality, is it? But about their belief in their own performance.
Exactly. It's a crucial distinction. At one extreme, you have the sincere performer.
The one who believes their own act.
Fully. They're fully taken in by his own act, sincerely convinced that the stage reality they're presenting is the real reality. Goffman suggests this is the typical case.
Most of us, most of the time.
Probably. Where even the audience is convinced, and only a sociologist or maybe someone who's feeling socially disgruntled might doubt the realness of it all, is when we feel most authentic, often unaware of the performance.
Okay, but then the other end of the spectrum is the cynical performer.
Right, the cynical performer. This person has no belief in his own act, and importantly, no ultimate concern with the beliefs of the audience.
They know it's fake and don't care if others believe it.
Pretty much. This performer might toy at will with something his audience must take seriously. Goffman says they experience a kind of gleeful spiritual aggression from their successful masquerade.
A private thrill from manipulation.
Sort of, yeah. A pleasure in knowing they're managing perceptions while others are oblivious. But what's even more fascinating is that a cynical individual might delude their audience for what he considers to be their own good.
Not just for selfish reasons.
Not always. Think about a doctor giving a placebo, not out of malice, but because the patient shows such a heartfelt demand for some intervention, even if medicine isn't strictly needed.
Or service staff, maybe? Smoothing things over?
Exactly. Service professionals subtly misrepresenting reality to fulfill a customer's deeply felt, even if unrealistic, demand for an ideal experience. It's not always outright deceit, but managing expectations to maintain harmony or achieve an outcome.
So if we follow Goffman's logic here and strip away the idea of a fixed internal personality like some stable core, what are we left with? It sounds like just constant flux, ongoing construction.
You've hit on the radical, maybe unsettling core of his perspective. Ultimately, for Goffman, the person is dissolved into the diverse practices of speech and comportment.
Dissolved, wow.
Yeah, there's no stable core, only the ever-changing, self-reproducing process of semiosis, that continuous creation of meaning through signs and symbols.
Semiosis, meaning-making.
Right. This view moves away from a humanistic social psychology that looks for inherent traits, fixed identities, a true self.
Instead, personality is.
It's a fluid, dynamic accomplishment, something you do moment by moment, not something you just are. Your being is constantly performed, interpreted, negotiated in that social interaction dance.
So our personality isn't some fixed blueprint inside us, but this constant negotiation and performance, incredibly shaped by the moment, by the audience. And this intricate performance, this social ballet, relies heavily on unspoken rules and expectations we often don't even realize we're following.
Absolutely. Those unspoken rules are embodied in what Goffman calls the twin concepts of deference and demeanor.
Deference and demeanor.
Yeah, he argued they're absolutely crucial for navigating any social encounter successfully. Think of them as the implicit grammar, the hidden etiquette of social interaction that we learn from a very young age.
Okay, let's break those down. Start with deference. What is it exactly and how do we show it?
Deference is essentially the appreciation an individual shows of another to that other. It's not about efficiency or pleasure. It's about what's suitable or just in that social context.
And when we break these rules,
it leads to palpable uneasiness, discomfort, subtle social sanctions, which then confirm or disconfirm ourselves in others' eyes.
How is deference expressed? Through rituals.
Exactly. Two primary types. First, avoidance rituals. These are basically prescriptions, taboos, specifying what not to do.
Like personal space.
Invading personal space, yeah. Or avoiding using personal names with certain people in certain contexts, respecting privacy. Interestingly, Goffman noted higher social classes often have more extensive taboos against casual contact.
Suggesting more elaborate ways of maintaining distance and hierarchy.
Precisely.
Okay, so that's avoidance rituals, what not to do. What's the second type?
The second type is presentational rituals. These are prescriptions specifying what to do, the positive acts of recognition and respect.
Examples.
Things like salutations, a nod, a handshake, a formal greeting, noticing changes in someone's appearance, requesting their participation in a conversation, offering small services like holding a door or picking up something they dropped.
You see these everywhere.
Even in unexpected places, like the mental wards Goffman studied, he saw patients and staff exchanging food, helping each other, politely asking about health.
Although, though, what?
Even seemingly nice acts, like asking about health, can sometimes be an invasion of privacy, which highlights this fascinating inherent opposition and conflict between the two forms of deference.
That's a powerful idea, that showing concern, a presentational ritual, can simultaneously invade someone's personal reserve, an avoidance ritual. It's like a constant tightrope walk.
It truly is. As the sociologist Emil Durkheim, who influenced Goffman, suggested, the human personality is a sacred thing. One dare not violate it nor infringe its bounds, while at the same time the greatest good is in communion with others.
So privacy versus connection.
Exactly. The right to privacy, respecting boundaries, often comes at the expense of certain kinds of intimate communion. You can't fully engage and fully maintain rigid distance. There's this constant, delicate negotiation, a dance between intimacy and respect.
Okay, so that's deference, appreciating and respecting others. What about demeanor? How does that fit into this performed self?
Demeanor refers to the qualities conveyed through your deportment, dress, and bearing. How you carry yourself, how you present your character, expressing desirable or undesirable qualities to others present.
What makes for good demeanor?
A well-demeaned individual displays things like discretion, sincerity, modesty, sportsmanship, command of speech and body movements, self-control over emotions and appetites, poise under pressure.
Qualities we often see as indicating someone's general character.
Right, suggesting what they're generally like at other times and as a performer of other activities. Good demeanor makes someone seem reliable, predictable, someone you can interact with safely, someone poised for communication.
And breaches of demeanor then would be particularly stark, especially in certain settings.
Absolutely. Those mental hospital settings Goffman studied offer clear, often poignant examples of patients spectacularly failing to maintain these proprieties.
Like what kind of failures?
Things he called ritual profanation, like sticking out a tongue behind someone's back or grimacing. It conveys contempt or disrespect without a direct verbal insult. Goffman even observed that the very segregation of patients by the degree of easily apparent mental illness was effectively a grading system based on ceremonial rule violations.
So the more you broke these unspoken demeanor rules, the more unwell you seemed.
Exactly. It highlights how deeply ingrained these social expectations are to our very idea of normal behavior.
It almost sounds like, in Goffman's world, we collectively treat each individual as a kind of sacred entity, constantly performing rituals to uphold their dignity and place.
That's a profound and poetic way to put it, and it beautifully captures one of Goffman's most evocative insights. He suggests that many gods have been done away with, but the individual himself stubbornly remains as a deity of considerable importance.
The individual is a deity.
Yeah. This deity walks with dignity, receives many little offerings of deference, is fiercely jealous of the worship due, and responds dramatically to how they're treated. In a sense, each individual serves as his own priest, constantly performing and managing the rituals needed to uphold this sacredness for themselves and others.
That's an incredible image. It underscores the deep, almost religious significance we attach to maintaining faith and respect in just everyday life. Okay, so we're constantly managing this elaborate performance of self, following these unspoken rules of deference and demeanor, upholding ourselves and others as these social deities. But what happens when we're not consciously performing? Or when something just slips out? A blurt, a sigh, a spontaneous sound.
Yes. That's where Goffman's truly fascinating concept of Felicity's condition comes in, along with his meticulous analysis of self-talk and response cries.
Felicity's condition?
Yeah. These are incredibly powerful indicators of our underlying social orientation, precisely because they often feel uncontrolled. Felicity's condition is essentially the condition behind all other Felicity conditions, a foundational requirement for any social interaction.
Okay. What does it mean?
It's any arrangement which leads us to judge an individual's verbal acts to be not a manifestation of strangeness. In plain terms, it underpins our very sense of what it is to be sane.
So it's the basic assumption that someone isn't acting. Weird.
Exactly. In spoken interaction, and really in all social behavior, we're implicitly obliged to display that we are sane. We do this through carefully managing our words and actions, and by showing we understand others' words. It even applies to non-linguistic acts when no words are spoken.
So it's about constantly reassuring everyone else that we're with it, present and rational in the situation. This must involve a lot of subtle negotiations like what are called referential tact.
Precisely. Speakers have to exhibit referential tact, meaning they need to be acutely alive to what's in the hearer's mind. So they can find phrasing that's succinct yet sufficiently detailed to be understood, and crucially, inoffensive and not indelicate to the listener's sensibilities.
Give me an example.
Okay, knowing Marcia is someone's mother doesn't automatically give you the social license to use her first name in all contexts. You wouldn't typically ask a 7-year-old, "Where's Marcia?" about their mom, right?
Right, you'd say, "Where's Mommy?" or "Your mom."
Exactly, even though the child knows who Marcia is. It shows our communication isn't just about conveying information. It's profoundly about navigating social relationships, showing respect, adhering to what feels appropriate in that shared social reality.
And this extends to our basic expectations of cooperation in conversation too, doesn't it?
It does. We operate with these deeply embedded cognitive presuppositions. We unconsciously assume others can understand our language.
Okay, that's basic.
And further, that they'll be reasonable enough to put their language capacity at the disposal of the exchange.
Meaning they'll play along, follow the rules of conversation?
Yes. Fundamental expectations like letting us complete our turns, respecting the topic, maintaining a modicum of wariness to keep things smooth. These are the unspoken agreements that allow conversations to flow, allowing us to build a shared sense of reality together.
But what about those moments when we don't follow these unspoken rules? Like when we talk to ourselves in public?
Right.
Or make strange, involuntary noises? Those must disrupt that shared reality.
They absolutely do. That's where self-talk and response cries come in, as profound breaches of situational propriety.
How is self-talk a breach?
Self-talk, Goffman says, is a situational impropriety, much bigger than just a conversational one. It strikes directly at our sense of the orientation of the speaker to the situation as a whole.
It makes them seem disconnected.
Exactly. It's seen as a direct threat to intersubjectivity. It warns others that their basic assumption of a jointly maintained base of ready mutual intelligibility among all persons present might be dangerously wrong.
And the consequences.
Well, if an adult fails to conceal self-talk in public, it's often, tragically, attributed to mental illness, which powerfully shows how deeply ingrained the expectation of outward-focused, socially attuned interaction is to our definition of normalcy.
So these are often blurted vocalizations that feel involuntary, but Goffman still saw them as revealing something about our inner state and our orientation to the social world.
Exactly. Goffman meticulously detailed various response cries. He described them as creatures of social situations, not states of talk.
Creatures of social situations?
Yeah.
Meaning they only happen when others are around.
Primarily, yes. They are exuded expressions, not intentionally sent messages, though he fascinatingly notes they can sometimes be strategically employed, almost performatively.
Okay.
Fundamentally, they externalize a presumed inward state and are highly conventionalized. We mostly know what they mean when we hear them.
Give us some examples of these incredible blurted vocalizations. I'm curious what he categorized.
Oh, there's a whole repertoire, and his detail is just astounding. We have transition displays.
Transition displays.
Sounds like brrr or ah when you enter or leave uncomfortable temperatures, like walking into an air-conditioned room on a hot day and sighing, ah.
Okay, got it. What else?
Then there are spill cries like whoops or whoops when you have a momentary loss of control. Maybe a plea for help or just a warning to others, like if you stumble but catch yourself and whoops, slips out.
Happens all the time.
We also have threat startles like eek or yape. He notes these are often gender-typed as female, interestingly. They mimic fear, but crucially, you remain in control, showing awareness without being overwhelmed.
And revulsion.
Revulsion sounds like you or gross, again, often seen as more female, upon contact with something contaminating, frequently with an unserious note, implying it's unpleasant, but not really serious.
Those are sounds of reaction. What about sounds related to effort or pain, those more physical blurtings?
Yes, he covers those too. Strain grunts emitted when lifting or pushing something heavy. They can warn others to stand clear or just dramatize the effort. He even gives the vivid example of vocal accompaniment when passing a hard stool.
Okay, maybe TMI from Goffman there.
Huh, well, he was thorough. And then, crucially, pain cries like ow or ouch. These function not just as expressions of hurt, but as a warning to the instigator of pain, conveying something like, you are just now coming to hurt me, rather than simply, I have been hurt.
So it's a social signal wrapped in a physical reaction.
Precisely.
And it gets even more intimate with sexual moans.
Indeed. He describes these as subvocal tracings of climax, available to both sexes. And even here, Goffman notes these very private sounds can be strategically employed to delineate an ideal development, even if it's not actually happening.
Suggesting even there, performance can creep in.
Even in the most private moments, yes, shaping the perception of the experience.
What about sounds we make to sort of invite others into our internal world, but without directly speaking, without breaking the state of talk?
Those are what he calls floor cues. Sounds like an imprecation, muttering damn or a sudden laugh. They're used to prompt a listener to inquire, to invite us to let them in on what we are experiencing without directly addressing them.
Like baiting someone to ask what's wrong or what's funny.
Exactly. Think of someone reading the paper, suddenly exclaiming, "Good God!" Their partner or whoever is nearby orients they're listening maybe asks, "What is it?" It's a subtle but effective way to get attention and invite conversation without explicitly asking.
Clever. Any others?
And finally, audible glee. A sound of pure pleasure, maybe from a teenager getting a favorite dessert. It momentarily transfixes the individual and implicitly invites shared appreciation from others. A little moment of shared delight.
So these fugitive communications, as he called them, they're fleeting, almost unconscious, but incredibly revealing about our inner state and our ongoing social negotiations.
They are. They make a momentary, powerful claim on everyone's attention. They invite others into our interiors, our thoughts, feelings, sensations, but importantly, only when it's easy for them to see where the voyage takes them.
Meaning in a controlled way.
In a controlled, conventional way that doesn't fundamentally disrupt the underlying social order, they mark a flooding of relevance in, making our private experience suddenly relevant to the shared social space. They're miniature performances in themselves, often revealing more than words ever could.
Okay, so our personal presentation, this intricate performance of personality, is deeply embedded in these micro-interactions, constantly shaped by deference, demeanor, even our accidental blurtings. But how do larger social structures, forces beyond just the immediate situation, influence how we perform our personality? It can't just be about the immediate audience, right?
That's a critical question. It pushes Goffman's analysis beyond just face-to-face encounters, and that's precisely where his brilliant analysis of total institutions and gender comes in.
Okay.
These show how pervasive, often invisible social forces profoundly shape our very selves, often in ways we don't consciously recognize or control.
Let's start with total institutions. What did Goffman mean by that term, and how do they fundamentally reshape someone's personality?
Goffman defined total institutions as places like prisons, mental hospitals, monasteries, military barracks, places somewhat cut off from the wider world.
What other characteristics?
They're characterized by a formally administered round of life, a highly structured, regimented daily routine, and a stark binary character.
Binary. Meaning?
A basic, almost impermeable split between staff and inmates, with very little social mobility between those two groups.
And their purpose?
Well, their purposes vary. Some are just to isolate people, others perform utilitarian tasks, but many, crucially, seek to transform people.
Transform them how?
Educating the young, reforming criminals, or most profoundly, socializing individuals into conforming with approved norms, maybe even getting them to believe in those norms, fundamentally reshaping their identities.
Yet a key, almost brutal feature of these places is what he called the stripping of identity. How does that process actually work?
The stripping of identity is indeed profound, often harsh. It's most characteristic of closed and coercive institutions, think mental hospitals, prisons, where it's a permanent part of security and control.
How is identity stripped?
Things like mandatory uniforms erasing personal style, communal living eliminating private space, confiscating personal possessions, constant surveillance, the rigid schedule dictating every minute. All these work to dismantle a person's pre-existing social identity.
But it's not always permanent.
Not always. In what he called intermediate normative institutions, maybe traditional boarding schools, officer training academies, this stripping can be an intense but temporary rite of initiation.
A rite of passage.
Exactly. A hardening procedure, like anthropological rites. It's intended to foster intense loyalty, camaraderie, commitment to the group. Paradoxically, the more unpleasant or dehumanizing the initiation, the greater the subsequent loyalty and bond often is.
And where do inmates find space for themselves? A way to maintain some semblance of personality within these rigid identity-stripping structures.
That's where the underlife emerges. It's a fascinating testament to human resilience.
The underlife.
It's the informal, often secret, organization inmates create to subvert or get around the official rules and purposes of the institution. It's a way to reclaim agency, express individuality, forge alternative social bonds.
Does it always exist?
Goffman observed it's least developed in more open, bureaucratic, or highly normative institutions, where inmates have more legitimate ways to express grievances or challenge the system.
Because they don't need the secret channels as much.
Right. They might have less psychological or practical need for a clandestine underlife if they can engage in direct, legitimate conflicts within the system. Goffman's concept helps us analyze just how total an institution really is by looking at its bureaucracy, openness, purposes, modes of compliance, and resistance.
Okay, moving from these extreme settings to more everyday life, Goffman also meticulously analyzed how gender is performed, seeing it as profoundly shaped by social structure, not just biology. This seems incredibly relevant today.
Absolutely. Goffman treated gender as a social construct, an objectively overlaid layer on biological sex. He argued societies elaborate what he called sex class, the biological distinction, into a sex class-specific way of appearing, acting, and feeling.
So it's learned, socially mandated, not innate.
That was his view. And he introduced this powerful concept of institutional reflexivity.
Institutional reflexivity.
It means society itself presents biological sex differences as the reason for our social arrangements, making social consequences seem entirely natural and inevitable.
Can you give an example?
The classic one is toilet segregation. It's presented as a natural consequence of the difference between the sex classes, right?
Yeah, seems logical.
But Goffman argues it's actually rather a means of honoring, if not actively producing, this difference. Society constantly reinforces the very distinctions it claims are just natural, thereby shaping how we perform our gender.
So there's a whole courtesy system built around these gendered performances, like a prescribed social script.
There absolutely is. In Western society, Goffman observed, males are socially obliged to protect and help females.
Why?
It stems from this pervasive cultural belief that women are precious, ornamental, and fragile, easily subject to contamination and defilement, and prone to blanching when faced with harsh words.
Sounds a bit dated now, but you still see traces of it.
You do. And this expectation of male protectiveness extends to any female, even strangers. Think of a man instinctively holding a door for any woman, shielding her from something unpleasant, stepping in during an argument.
These aren't necessarily personal choices.
They're powerful social requirements, implicit demands reinforcing gendered roles, contributing to the ongoing performance of gender in daily life.
And this leads to what he called segregative punctuation in public places. How does that manifest?
Yes. Public places, which Goffman argued were often implicitly designed primarily for males, incorporate specific spaces like separate toilets or specialized merchandise zones in department stores.
Right, like the men's section versus the women's section.
Exactly. These allow for a with-then-apart rhythm. This is what he called segregative punctuation of the day's round. It ensures that subcultural differences, especially gender, can be reaffirmed and reestablished even after people mix.
That's like a reminder.
It's as if equality and sameness were a masquerade that was to be periodically dropped, allowing gender roles to be reasserted, reinforced, performed anew. These subtle spatial divisions continually reenact gendered differences.
He also described how marriage or long-term pairing creates a unique dynamic, a mutually captive audience for gender performance.
That's a powerful, often unacknowledged aspect of intimate relationships. The phrase mutually captive audience. It means wherever the male or female goes, an appropriate other will be alongside to reciprocate the enactment of gender expressions.
So you always have someone to perform for and who performs back.
Essentially, yes. This constant co-presence, this built-in audience, perpetually reinforces gendered performances. Each person has a familiar mirror, a constant companion for whom to perform their gender, solidifying these roles over time through countless small interactions. It's an ongoing, subtle negotiation.
And courtship seems to be a key arena for these performances, especially involving what he called breaching.
Courtship for Goffman is indeed a rich tableau. He notes the process involves males pressing his pursuit, often by subtly or overtly breaching of existing distance, and, well, ogling.
Sounds problematic.
It can be, absolutely. He observes these interactions. No season or place, any occasion will do. And while some women might be genuinely offended or uncomfortable, others, even while outwardly discouraging the attention, might be inwardly pleased by the delict, seeing in it an indication of their rating.
That's a very complex dynamic.
It is. Again, highlighting the performative aspect of gender, even in intimate or potentially awkward moments, and how deeply ingrained these social scripts are.
So it's not just what we say or do, but also how our physical surroundings provide situational resources for gender display.
Precisely. Goffman suggests that every physical surrounding, every room, public space, social gathering, provides materials that can be used in the display of gender and the affirmation of gender identity.
We use the environment itself.
We learn to size up a social situation for what can be expressively wrung from it for gender expression. This influences everything.
Yeah.
Who makes decisions, who leads a conversation, who follows in micro-interactions. These seemingly tiny choices constantly reinforce the social construction of gender.
It's a remarkable insight into how deeply interwoven social structure and individual performance really are, making gender not inherent, but a continuous active accomplishment. Hashtag outro. Wow. This has been an incredible deep dive into Irving Goffman's world, a journey into the hidden rules, the performances of our daily lives. It's just abundantly clear that our personality, far from being some static internal thing, is this incredibly dynamic, socially performed, situationally attuned phenomenon. It really is a dance, a series of nuanced presentations.
Indeed. Goffman's work gives us such powerful conceptual tools, methodological tools to understand the intricate, often invisible forms we live through every day. He meticulously showed us how individuals constantly monitor, adapt, perform, tirelessly negotiating meaning and identity in every single social encounter.
Yeah.
His insights remind us that knowledge is most valuable when it's understood and applied, encouraging us to critically think about the unspoken assumptions underlying our daily interactions and the selves we keep presenting.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? If our personality is constantly being performed, nuanced, even strategically manipulated based on the social situation, the audience, what profound shifts occur when the very arenas of interaction radically change?
Yeah.
What happens when those mutual monitoring possibilities are no longer just face-to-face? When they're mediated, curated, asynchronous, often public by default on platforms like social media?
And this raises an even more pressing question, perhaps. What subtle or maybe not so subtle shifts occur in the very fabric of our self-presentation when the sacredness of the individual, those intricate rituals of deference and demeanor, get expressed through new, often disembodied forms?
Like online.
Exactly. What old Felicity conditions for sanity and proper conduct start to unravel when our audience is invisible or vast? And what new, perhaps less obvious, blurted expressions, digital oops moments or carefully curated glee emerge? How do these shape the deity of considerable importance that is the individual self in these rapidly evolving digital social landscapes?
Have we gained new stages for performance, or have these new stages maybe diminished some essential aspects of our multifaceted Goffmanian personalities?
It's a big question.
Definitely something for you to mull on and observe in your own daily interaction.